There are spoilers for She-Hulk season 1 in here. She-Hulk is absolutely terrible. There's no reason for the show to be this bad. And I'll show you guys something real quick. As I've been watching this series, I have been leaving behind some ratings because I kind of wanted to track, how the show has been going over the course of the series. And one thing I found is that on this website that I use called tracked.tv, you can actually rate individual episodes and write little reviews in the form of comments under each episode. So that's what I've been doing. I have a profile on this website called Tracked here. I think my username's Not a Newbie or something. And I haven't given the season an overall rating yet, but I think the ratings that I've given each episode tell the tale. The pilot, the first episode, the episode that's supposed to kind of hook you in and be like, oh yeah, check out my show, 4 out of 10. It was bad. Then the next episode, 3 out of 10. Worse. Episode 3, a little bit better, 4 out of 10. Now this one stood out to me because this was the first one where we actually got a fair bit of good
said in the chat. Hey Giga Chat,
good content.
Did Joy see the recent episode of She-Hulk?
And
Lennox
the humor, I think, especially kind of started to hit in this episode, but still there were just some bad things about this episode that were just it was pretty sad. Then you had Mean Green and Straight poured into these, which this episode was about as bad as its title, 2 out of 10. This episode was the first one that was genuinely, completely, almost good. There was a lot of really good stuff happening here. There was a lot of really good stuff also happening in The Retreat. Episode 8 is good, but it feels pretty sad because it's literally just a backdoor pilot to the upcoming Daredevil show. And then we have the series finale or season finale. I hope it's a series finale, which is 3 out of 10. Bad stuff. And I feel bad. I feel bad clowning on the finale specifically because there were some really good things in there. Narratively and storytelling wise, there was some really creative stuff happening in that finale to the point where the episode was bad. It was just non-technical stuff was happening. It was the final fight scene. It wasn't really it was this weird thing where somehow Pug was convinced by Nikki to go spy on some members of what's it called?
The most fourth wall
spy on some members. You clearly have not seen Mr. Robot. Go spy on some members of the intelligentsia, which is basically imagine a combination of InfoWars and Reddit, and that's what the intelligentsia is. It's basically this website where these guys kind of conspire to beat take down She-Hulk or something and humiliate her publicly. Some cringe plot like that. Yes. Single male Redditors are the villain of She-Hulk, which is pretty sad. But you have Pug go in. He kind of sneaks his way into a meeting with the intelligentsia, and then it turns out that the guy who's been hired to speak there is Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, who Jen had helped get out of jail in the first place, which was another twist. And I'm okay, that's an interesting twist because he's the kind of person who I could definitely see turning, if that makes sense. I mean, after all, he is a villain. Let's see here. Yeah. And so there was that thing, and that was fine. But then a bunch of crazy stuff. Then a bunch of crazy stuff started happening. The Hulk kind of came out of nowhere. Then Titania kind of came out of nowhere. It was just very bad and chaotic, and stuff wasn't making sense. Everyone was just coming together for literally no reason. Nikki came back into the building out of the blue, even though she should have left if the story was going to make sense. But then She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall and is this doesn't make sense. This is stupid. Let's go to the writer's room. So they go to the writer's room.
Said in the chat.
And then in the writer's room, she kind of confronts the story writers for making such a terrible story. And I'm like, this is great. You're like talking about how terrible this show is, and now you're going to pivot and redirect everything, or you're gonna like make this be the actual plot, or everything's like a dream sequence. But no, this was the most disappointing thing. This was a very like clever narrative thing. She like even goes to some room to see Kevin, because Kevin Feige is the one who's like pulling all the strings at Marvel. Turns out Kevin's like a robot, which I think was kind of funny, because it kind of like makes fun of like the robotic nature of how like a lot of these Marvel like projects are just like carbon copies. I even thought that was good. I know a lot of the people, especially if you look at like the nerd-erotic and quartering realm of the internet, were not fans of that, but I thought that was a good choice. But the problem was they used that whole thing to basically cop their way out of ending the terrible story that they created. Like what they did is like what I would have done, or what I think I've actually probably seen this happen with fan fiction, where you write this long story and then you come to the end and you don't know how to finish it, so you'd be like, oh, actually that didn't happen.
Said in the chat.
Which is like a very, very, very stupid and bad way to go about finishing your story. Don't make number one of making television. Don't make a story that you will be ashamed of finishing. It's not just like a week by week thing. This was like 100% scripted and done, like from the beginning. So the whole fact that this was the planned ending that they had written from the beginning was pretty bad. And it was pretty sad. These people don't know how to make a good story. They admitted it in the series finale, or the season finale, and then they're basically like, let's just retcon half of the things that happened, and let's skip to the part where people are going to jail without a fight. We will skip the whole fight scene at the end, and let's have Daredevil land from the sky for some reason, and that's a good ending to the show. Now, Lennoxo makes a good point here, that there's the twist that Wong got Abomination out of prison. That is true. I saw a meme that said like Pug was the best character of the show. Yes, also true. The problem with this show, though, is that all of the best moments of this show did not include She-Hulk, or were at the expense of She-Hulk. So, for example, there's the episode, which one is it? The Retreat. The Retreat is literally basically a therapy session for Jen, where she realizes some things and she needs to grow as a person, whatever. It was very light and fluffy and very like surfacey. It was very much a narcissistic character who's like in a rut of self-hate, kind of needed to sort of like accept herself, which is like valid and true. Like you do, like, I mean, she definitely needed to like accept herself to some extent, but the goal of that is not just to be like, yay, I'm awesome, which is kind of where the show like left her. But the goal needed to be, well, I have some serious flaws and I need to address those flaws, rather than just writing myself off as like terrible, because then you don't actually address your issues. You just say, I'm bad, and like then like none of your issues actually get fixed. That's kind of how it actually works if you're like talking about like growing as a person and everything. I guess to see we're talking about things I don't watch. Yes, I have a spoiler warning here on the bottom in case this is something that you're worried about getting spoiled for you. Yeah, I'm just talking about She-Hulk and how terrible of a show it is. But yeah, She-Hulk is just bad. Like these writers did not need to be writing the show. They needed therapy, and then maybe they should have come back. But like, especially like a lot of the messaging for the first half of the season was men are bad, men are terrible. The villains of the literal villain of the show is men typing mean comments on the internet. Is just all very sad and lame. I think it makes women seem pitiful because they can't. They have to like always be fighting the mysterious man. They have all these nearly insurmountable villains. a lot of the main character's issues that she was fighting about and complaining about society and everything, she doesn't even make any steps towards fixing it. She doesn't she never even becomes a superhero. She just becomes someone who goes up and fights for like she goes up and fights people whenever she wants to, because they did mean things to her. She doesn't actually like go out and try very hard to save other people's lives, which like she's the least heroic superhero we've seen from the MCU in a while.